Hello dear aspirants, welcome to Epitome IAS. So we have recently started with this new initiative, that is UPSC PYQ analysis, and we have already seen the first topic, that is the political theories, and today we are going to do the next topic, that is the Indian political system. So let us start with the class. So the first question is, we adopted parliamentary democracy based on the British model, but how does our model differ from that model? So this question was asked in 2021. So the first statement given here is, as regards legislation, the British Parliament is supreme or sovereign, but in India, the power of the Parliament to legislate is limited. The second statement is, in India, matters related to the constitutionality of the amendment of an act of the Parliament are referred to the Constitution bench by the Supreme Court. So before answering this question, let us see what are the differences which is there in the British model of the parliamentary system and the Indian model of the parliamentary system. So the first difference would be, in India, we have a republic system, that is nothing but the head of the state. So who is the head of the state? That is the president. The president is elected. But in case of the British, the head of the state is the king or the queen. So we can say they have monarchy and they hold the post hereditarily. So the second difference would be, in India we have constitutional supremacy. So what is constitutional supremacy? Constitutional supremacy is nothing but the constitution clearly defines the functions of the government, and the government or the parliament cannot go against the constitution. So this is constitutional supremacy. If the parliament is making any law which is against the constitution, then the Supreme Court will rule out that particular law, considering it as unconstitutional. So here in the case of British, we have parliamentary sovereignty. So what is parliamentary sovereignty? Parliamentary sovereignty is nothing but parliamentary supremacy. They don't have any restriction, as in the case of India. They can do, they can legislate whatever law they want. So the third difference would be, in India, the PM, that is the Prime Minister, should be the can be the member of either house of the parliament. He can belong to the Lok Sabha, he can belong to the Rajya Sabha, but in case of the British, the PM should belong only to the lower house. So that is the House of Commons. So the next difference would be, the ministers who are appointed, even if they did not belong to the parliament, they can appoint anyone. They can pick someone and they can appoint as a minister. But within 6 months of the period, he should become the member of the parliament either by election or by the nomination. But in case of the British, it would be the minister should belong to the either house of the parliament. So the next difference would be, in case of India, there is no legal responsibility. But in case of British, the ministers have legal responsibility. So what is this legal responsibility? So let us say, in the context of British, if the king is issuing an order, so the British should countersign that particular order, and if that order is against any law, then that minister who signed that particular order, he is going to be held accountable. But in case of India, there is no such provision. So these are some of the important differences between Indian model and the British model of parliamentary democracy. So now let us answer this question. So in the first statement, they have given that the British Parliament is supreme and sovereign. Yes, this is true. In British Parliament, the parliamentary supremacy is there. So this part of the statement is correct. But in India, the power of the Parliament to legislate is limited. Yes, the power of parliament is limited by the provisions of the constitution. So this particular statement is correct. If you see the second statement, in India, matters related to the constitutionality of the amendment of an act of the parliament are referred to the constitutional bench by the Supreme Court. Yes, when there is any question regarding the constitutionality of any particular law or any particular amendment of any law, the constitutionality would be checked only by the constitutional bench of the Supreme Court. So this particular statement is also right. So the answer would be C, both 1 and 2. So now let's go to the next question. So we have already discussed this. So the second question is, which one of the following in Indian polity is an essential feature that indicates that it is a federal in character? So they are asking about the federal feature in the context of Indian polity. So the option A is the independence of judiciary is safeguarded. Option B, the union legislature as elected representatives from the constituent units. Option C, the union cabinet can have elected representatives from regional parties. And option D, the fundamental rights are enforceable by court of law. So if we see here option A, they have given that independent of judiciary. So in case of a federation, there will be two units, that is union and the state. We can say this as center. So the central government and the state government, they'll be having a division of power. So what happens here is, if we don't have independence of judiciary, if there is any dispute between the union government and the state government, the judiciary cannot, the judiciary cannot act independently. It will be a threat to the federal feature, right? So the independence of judiciary will actually help in strengthening the federal feature. So this option is correct. So if you see the second option, the union legislature as elected representative from the constituent units. Yes, this statement is true, but it is not related to the federal character of the Indian polity. So we can eliminate this option. Then option C, union cabinet can have elected representatives from regional parties. Yes, sometimes regional parties can represent the union cabinet, but not always. So we can eliminate this option as well. Then option D, the fundamental rights are enforceable by the court of law. Yes, this statement is correct, but in the context of federal character, no, this is not related. So we can eliminate this option as well. So the correct answer is option A. So here we have some of the features of the federal government, which we have to remember. So the first point is dual government. What is dual government? We have union government and we have state government, and we have division of power between the union government and the state government. So in Indian context, we have dual government. Then the second point is written constitution. How a written constitution will help to maintain the federal feature? When a constitution is written, which means it clearly defines the functions, the roles of each, like union government and the state government. So it strengthens the federal feature. And if we see the third point, that is division of powers. Yes, do you remember the 7th schedule? In 7th schedule, they have mentioned the division of power between union and the state. We have seen that we have union list, we have state list, and we have concurrent list. So the fourth point would be supremacy of constitution. Yes, the supremacy of constitution is one of the feature of federal polity. Why? Because if the constitution is supreme, which means the government cannot go against the constitution. So the federal feature would be strengthened. Then a rigid constitution. What is rigid constitution? There are some provisions of the constitution which are federal in nature. Those provisions can only be amended by the support of the states, so that the center cannot act arbitrarily and remove all those powers given to the state. Okay, so that's why amending those provision, it is difficult. Then independent judiciary. We already saw this point. If there is no independent judiciary, then the disputes between union government and the state government will not be solved in a right manner. Then bicameral legislature. Here we are actually talking about the Rajya Sabha. Why? Because Rajya Sabha it is directly the representatives of states and the union territory. So it is also a feature of a federal feature. Then the third question, with reference to India, consider the following statements. This question was also asked in 2021. So the first statement is, there is only one citizenship and one domicile. Statement number 2, a citizen by birth only can become the head of the state. Statement number 3, a foreigner once granted the citizenship cannot be deprived of it under any circumstances. So by common sense, we can actually eliminate this option, because will there be a provision like this? A foreigner once granted the citizenship, it never, they can remove the citizenship. No, this is not logically possible, right? So we can eliminate this option. So the C and D, we can eliminate these two options as well. So if we see option, statement number 1, there is only one citizenship. Yes, in India, we have only one citizenship and one domicile. What is this? Domicile. Domicile is nothing but the residency. So as in the case of US, they have dual citizenship. They have a citizenship for the nation and they have a citizenship for the particular state. But in India, we can't say that I am from Telangana, so I have a citizenship for Telangana and I have citizenship for India. No, right? We only have Indian citizenship. So we only have only one citizenship. Just like that, we have only one domicile. There is no need that you get a state domicile and a nation domicile. Only one domicile is enough. Then the second statement, a citizen by birth can only become the head of the state. Head of the state is the president. Is it true? No. The citizen by birth and naturalization, both can become the head of the state. So this statement is wrong. So the answer will be only one, option A. So acquisition of citizenship. According to the Citizenship Act of 1955, we have 5 ways of acquiring a citizenship, that is birth, descent, registration, naturalization and incorporation of a territory. Then there are also process of loss of citizenship. It is also mentioned in the Citizenship Act of 1955 and it has 3 ways. What are they? Renunciation, termination and deprivation. So let us go to the next question. In the context of India, which one of the following is the characteristic appropriate for bureaucracy? Option A, an agency for widening the scope of parliamentary democracy. B, an agency for strengthening the structure of the federalism. C, an agency for facilitating political stability and economic growth. D, an agency for I think this is for the implementation of public policy. So if we see here in option A, they have given that agency for widening the scope of parliamentary democracy. Let's say Parliament is coming up with a law, and let's say after few time they have to make any rule or regulation related to that particular law. So can we again call the Parliament and ask them to make that law, make that rule? No, it's not possible, right? That's why we have a provision of delegated legislation. So what is delegated legislation? In the end of the law, they'll clearly mention that these are certain provision which the bureaucrats, the top bureaucrats can make that particular rules or regulation with respect to that particular law. So that is delegated legislation. So if you see option A, yeah, widening the scope of parliamentary democracy. This is also a correct statement, but we have to find out the most appropriate statement here. So we'll see the other options as well. If we see option B, an agency for strengthening the structure of federalism. If you see the top bureaucracy, that is the all India level civil services, that is IAS or IPS, the states usually criticize them because they threaten the federalism, because they are considered as the control of center over the state. So this is against the federalism. So we can eliminate this option. Then option C, an agency for facilitating the political stability and economic growth. Again, this statement indirectly, yes, the bureaucracy does that. How? Political stability. The elected government usually they can sustain for 5 years, 5 months also, 1 year also. So they can there is no stability in the elected government. But the bureaucracy, they are called as permanent executive. So the bureaucracy is called as permanent executive. Why? Because in case of political instability, when the government is not able to be stable, the permanent executive, that is the bureaucracy, it is the administrative arm of the government, it will facilitate the functions of the government and it will also help in the economic growth. But this is not the direct option, it is not the direct characteristic of a bureaucracy, it is indirectly doing this thing. Then if you see option D, an agency for implementation of public policy. So if you see here, this is the major purpose or the main purpose of the bureaucracy. So a public policy is usually initiated by the government and the legislation is done by the parliament, and who implements the public policy? The implementation is done by the bureaucracy. So this would be the most appropriate answer, option D. So the next question, which one of the following is not a feature of Indian federalism? Option A, there is an independent judiciary in India. Option B, powers have been clearly divided between center and the states. Option C, the federating units have been given unequal representation in the Rajya Sabha. Option D, it is the result of an agreement among the federating units. So if we see here, we already saw the features of the Indian federalism. What they are asking is, which of the following is not the feature of Indian federalism? So the first option is, there is an independent judiciary in India. Yes, this is true. We saw in the previous question that we have independent judiciary in India, so that if there is any dispute between the center and the state, the independent judiciary will act correctly. So this option is correct. If we see option B, the power have been clearly divided between the center and state. Is that so? Yes. In the 7th schedule, we have actually divided the power among the center and the state. We have union list, we have state list, and we have concurrent list. So this statement is also correct. Then option C, the federating units. Federating units are nothing but the states. So the states have been given unequal representation in the Rajya Sabha. Is it true? The 4th schedule of the constitution talks about the allocation of seats in the Rajya Sabha. But tell me whether it is unequal representation or equal representation. In case of US, they have equal representation. Each state have equal number of people representing the upper house. But in case of India, what happens is, they have unequal representation based on the population of that particular state. Let's say UP, Uttar Pradesh, it has the largest population. So the number of seats in the Rajya Sabha allocated for UP is maximum. And in case of Tripura, it is a small state with less population. So the number of seats would be less. So this statement is also correct. And if we see option D, it is the result of an agreement among the federating units. Federating units are nothing but states. Is that true? No, this is not true. In case of India, this is not true. We are this union of states. Even the word federation is not mentioned in the constitution. What is this statement will be applicable to USA because those states come together and they make a country. But in case of India, just for the administrative purpose, we have different regional differences and diversities. We have divided the country into different states. So in this case, a particular state cannot secede from the country. So what is the right answer? They are asking for not a feature of Indian federalism. So the answer is D. So the next question, there is a parliamentary system of government in India because this question was asked in 2015. So the first option is Lok Sabha is elected directly by the people. Option B, Parliament can amend the constitution. Option C, Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved. Option D, Council of Ministers is responsible to the Lok Sabha. If you see here, Lok Sabha is elected directly by the people. Yes, this statement is correct. Parliament can amend the constitution. Yes, Parliament can amend the constitution. Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved. Yes, this is true because the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. Then D, Council of Ministers is responsible to the Lok Sabha. Yes, Council of Ministers are responsible to the Lok Sabha. But what they are asking is, there is a parliamentary system of government in India because of dash. So if you see this one, the Council of Ministers are responsible to the Lok Sabha. This is known as collective responsibility. So collective responsibility of Council of Ministers to the Lok Sabha in particular, to the Parliament in general. So this particular feature, that collective responsibility, is known as bedrock principle of parliamentary system of government. So this would be the correct answer. And if you see the other three options, even though these statements are correct, these are not features of the parliamentary system of government. So the next question. So we have some of the features of the parliamentary government here. So the first feature is nominal and the real power. So the nominal power obviously lies with the president and the real power lies with the prime minister. This is one of the feature of parliamentary government. Then majority party rule. Yes, in the parliament, which party comes up with the majority, they are actually going to form the government and they are going to rule. In case there is no majority, there will be a coalition government, they will be ruling. Then third one is collective responsibility. That is the Council of Ministers, they are responsible to the Lok Sabha. And the fourth statement is political homogeneity. So if the majority party, let's say they belong to a single party, obviously their decisions would be homogeneous. In case of a coalition government also, they have to compromise, they have to come up with the same policies. So that's why it is political homogeneity. Then double membership. If you see the ministers, the Council of Ministers, they are part of the executive as well as they are part of the legislature. They are member of parliament, so that's why they are part of the legislature. Then dissolution of Lok Sabha. Yes, there is dissolution of Lok Sabha. So these are the features of parliamentary government. So the next question, in the context of India, which of the following principles is or are implied institutionally in the parliamentary government? This question was asked in 2013. So the first statement, members of the cabinet are members of the parliament. Second statement, ministers hold the office till they enjoy confidence in the parliament. Third statement, cabinet is headed by the head of the state. So if we see here what they are asking, which of the following are the principles of parliamentary form of government in India? So if we see here the first statement, the members of the cabinet are the members of the parliament. What is a cabinet? Let's say this is Council of Ministers. So it is a subset of, the cabinet is a subset of Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers, they'll be having somewhere around 70 ministers, but in the cabinet, they'll be having only 15 to 20 important ministers to make fast decision along with the prime minister. So this is cabinet. What they are saying is members of the cabinet are members of the parliament. Yes, this is true. Members of the cabinet are also members of the parliament. Then second statement, ministers hold the office till they enjoy confidence in the parliament. Yes, the ministers, the Council of Ministers can hold their position with the confidence of the parliament. If in the parliament, if in the Lok Sabha, if they are passing the no confidence motion, the ministers have to resign. So this statement is also correct. Then statement 3, the cabinet is headed by the head of the state. Who is the head of the state? Head of the state is president. But the cabinet is actually headed by the prime minister. So if it is head of government, if they have given head of the government, then this particular statement would have been right, but they have given head of the state, so this statement is wrong. So what is the correct answer? The answer is option 1 and 2, option A. So let's go to the next question. Consider the following statements. First statement, Articles 371A to 371I were inserted in the Constitution of India to meet regional demands of Nagaland, Assam, Manipur, Andhra Pradesh, Sikkim, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh and Goa. Second statement, Constitutions of India and United States of America envisage a dual policy, the Union and the states, but a single citizenship. Statement 3, a naturalized citizen of India can never be deprived of his citizenship. Again, if you see this statement, logically if you see, this would be wrong, because not just a naturalized citizen, any citizen can be deprived of the citizenship if the government wants. So this statement is wrong. So if we eliminate this option itself, we will be getting the answer. We can eliminate these 3 options and you can get the correct answer. So let us still check the other options as well. So the first statement is Article 371A to 371I. Yes, this is correct. These are some special provisions given to some states because they are having some regional, let's say they are having some regional disparity. They need some special attention. So these states have been given these special provisions under the Constitution, and it was not given in the original Constitution. It was given step by step with different amendments. And if you see here, they have missed one article, that is Article 371. It belongs to Maharashtra and Gujarat, and here also they have mentioned, they have missed one other article, that is Article 371J. It is for Karnataka, and this was added in 2012 through an amendment. This question was asked in 2005, so they missed this particular article. So this statement is correct. And if you see the second statement, Constitution of India and the United States of America envisage a dual policy. Yes, this is true. Both in case of India and in case of United States of America, we have dual polity, a central government and a state government. This part is correct. And the second part is, but a single citizenship. Is it true? In case of India, yes, we have single citizenship, but in case of USA, I already told you, they have dual citizenship. They have a citizenship for the country and another citizenship for the particular state which they belong. So this statement is wrong. So the correct answer would be only one, option D. So that's all with today's class. So let us see in the next class. Thank you, students.